Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Get into Your Zone of Genius. I'm McKenna Sage. It's great to be back. I've been traveling on holiday for the last couple of weeks in Canada, where my husband's family is from. They have a beautiful lake house up there, and I just love it. Get to unplug and really, really relax. So I am feeling refreshed, excited to be home, excited to be back with you all. The internet up there was not quite up to going live, and so we had to postpone these calls, or these videos rather. So while I am just chatting here a little bit, I'm trying to find the chat. I can't even find it. Oh, here it is. Why don't you guys let me know if you can see and hear me? And I just want to make sure that we are all good in that department since we had some technical snafus when I was in Canada. But hopefully we are good to go now, back in the land of fast internet, and we can dive right in here. So let me know if you can see and hear me. Let me know where you're tuning in from, and I'll look for your comments here in the chat, and we'll dive right in. So the question I want to start with today is, what is your zone of genius, right? So if you, that's not the question actually, I'm just going to define it first. The question is, what percentage of the time do you feel like you're in your zone of genius? So what does your zone of genius mean though? To me, your zone of genius is not just like doing things you're good at. It's really about doing the things that are you're exceptional at, really, but not because you've necessarily learned the skill, but just because that's like who you are. And those tend to be the things that come the most naturally to you. Sometimes you might not even think they're that big of a deal, but everybody else is like, oh my gosh, that's incredible, right? And the key distinction to me between a zone of excellence and your zone of genius, right? Zone of excellence are things that you're really, really good at. But zone of genius is the things you're really great at that also bring you alive, that also fill you with energy and vitality. And so I want you to answer the question right now on a scale from 0 to 100, right? Because we're talking about percentages. What percentage of the time right now do you feel like you're in your zone of genius? So go ahead and comment in the comments with your number. And even if you're watching the replay, you can comment as well. So I really want to get you engaging in these videos. A lot of us sit back and we watch videos online, but we're kind of like distracted and doing other things. And it's really important if you're going to take the time to watch this, and we're going to keep it fairly short and sweet today, but really that you apply it and that you be, actively engaged. And so commenting here in the chat is one of the ways that you can do that. So what we're going to be talking about today, maybe I should just give a little bit of, as you're reflecting on your percentage, I'm going to give a little bit of preamble here around where this is coming from, this theme. So I'll be sharing my story in just a moment about how what I'm sharing today really shifted things for me. And this is all coming from a framework that we developed called the World Changer Quiz. So let me know in the chat if you've taken the quiz, say quiz, and maybe you want to tell me what your profile was. Were you a connector? Were you a visionary? Were you an arranger? We talk about your talents and we talk about your success motivators. So today we're really talking more about the talents. And so let me know in the chat, what was your talent in the World Changer Quiz, if you can remember. So going back to this question of, and if you haven't taken the quiz, by the way, you can go to worldchangerquiz.com, which I'll put in the chat, and you can take that free quiz. So if you're watching us live, maybe you wait and you can go take it after the call today. If you're watching the replay, then maybe you want to go pause this video, go take the quiz, and come on back. All right, so Julie said she is 50% of the time in her zone of genius. Awesome. And hasn't taken the quiz yet. No problem, Julie. You can go and take it after the video today. So now imagine, Julie, and anyone else watching, imagine you increased that by 20 to 40%. So imagine now, instead of 50% of the time, you were 70, 80, or even 90% of the time in your zone of genius. What would be different? How would your life be different? And maybe just put a couple thoughts in the chat there and we can talk about that. Nina says she's an arranger. Awesome. Great, Nina. And what about you? What percentage of the time do you feel like you're in your zone of genius right now? Let me know in the chat. And then if you imagine again that you increase that amount by 20 to 40%, how would your life be different? So that's what we're talking about today is how can you increase the amount of time that you spend in your zone of genius? And why is this important, right? It's like, well, that sounds great, but why? Because in my experience, this can result in more energy, better results in your career or business, and more fun and flow, just to name a few things. Now, let me tell a little bit of how this applies to my story. So when I, was in my previous career in marketing, and I would have answered the question, I was in my zone of genius maybe 20 to 30% of the time. I was really good at what I did. So you might think that number was surprisingly low, right? I remember, I was excellent at what I did in the sense of like working with other coaches and speakers and authors and helping them grow their businesses online and writing copy and helping with strategy and all these different things that I did. So I was really good at it. I worked with top clients and I had a very successful business. And yet I would have only rated myself probably maybe 30% on the scale of, how much of the time was I in my zone of genius. Now, why was that number so low? Because I was exhausted a lot of the time. Even though I was good at what I did, I didn't feel like I was fully, like it brought my gifts out, so to speak. It brought a lot of skills out and things that I was good at, but not like my true gifts and what I was here to do. Yeah. So Nina says 30 to 40%, not where I feel I need and want to be. Yeah, that's where I was as well, probably even 20 to 30%. And so what was the result of that? The fact that I wasn't in my zone of genius very much meant that I had low energy. I was exhausted a lot of the time. And it wasn't that I was necessarily working more than I work now. It was just that it wasn't the right work for me, right? Like, and that may or may not be true for you, but it was in my case that, that there was a career change wanting to happen. So in that, it was like the work I was doing it didn't drain me always, but aspects of it did. And it didn't pull me out, the best version of me out. So I was tired, I felt unfulfilled. And I kind of put a cap on how much I wanted to grow in that business because I didn't really see a vision that compelled me and excited me and pulled me forward. And so that's the opposite of what we want, right? So as I learned the aliveness method, which is the coaching and communication method that we teach here at Follow Your Aliveness, as I learned this method, as I began to, mentor under my mentor who developed the method, and as I really discovered what we're talking about today, the World Changer quiz and what my talent was, and I started to actually make shifts to align with that talent, all of a sudden that number started going up, right? From 30% to 40 or 50% of the time that I was in my zone of genius, and then maybe to 60 to 70, and it kept going up and up. And as that happened, I felt more fulfilled. I had more energy. Like instead of feeling drained and exhausted at the end of the day, I might feel tired and like, whoa, that was, a lot today. But it was like, but I feel so filled up in this other way, right? And, my business grew, right? I shifted careers in my case, but my business also grew. I grew from, the six-figure level to the multiple six-figure level, grew a team, and really went to another stage of business. And so that's what I want to share with you all is like, that is what we want your version of that. Wherever you are right now, we want you to have that increase in the amount of time that you are in your zone of genius, because then you have more energy, you feel more filled up and fulfilled, more alive, more like your true self. So that's what we're really going for here. Nina says, on bad days, I struggle to get to 10%. Yeah, right? So it's probably up and down. It may not be the same. So we want to kind of take an average so maybe for you, Nina, it's around 20% or something like that. Okay, so the quiz, again, the World Changer quiz, it's a free quiz that we developed. It tells you your number one talent in your career business, which by the way could be applied to other areas as well, but most people tend to apply it to career or business. And then what we call your success motivator. And so it's a free quiz, takes about 10 minutes to take, and then it's going to tell you those things. So again, if you're watching the replay, maybe you go take it and come back. If you're watching us live, then I would wait and do that at the end. So a little bit further into this training today, I'm going to talk about the talents specifically, and we're going to go into like how to really get into your zone of genius around your talent. Now, there was something I wanted to share first. Oh, this is part of a 3-part series. So I'm going to be going live over the next 3 weeks. So today we're in August 2022. If you're watching live, August 15th, and next Monday, the 22nd, we'll be going live again. And let me see what that one is actually called. These are all going to be around the World Changer quiz. So highly recommend taking that quiz. And let's see, next week is get better results and have fun doing it. So we're really going to be talking about how you can use your quiz results to or your profile to get better results in your business, whether that's making more money, getting more done, whatever it is you desire in terms of your business. That's what we're going to be talking about. And then finally, on the 29th of August, we're going to talk about how to create your winning team. Okay, so I go live every Monday, unless it's a holiday or I'm traveling, every Monday at 11 a.m. Central Time at the time of this recording. So how to create your winning team is really about how do you create a team of people around you, even if you don't have the wherewithal to hire a team yet. It could be, people in your life. It could be people you want to collaborate with to really be able to be in your function and they get to be in their functions. So we're kind of doing this deep dive into the World Changer quiz because we have a lot of people that have taken the quiz but want to understand more about their profile. Okay, so without further ado, so I talked a little bit about getting into my zone of genius. So what I really realized there is that I'm a connector. This is one of the 3 talents, and I was living more and working more in the realm of an arranger. And so in that, I was out of alignment with my true gifts. Now, the truth is, I'm really good at arranger. So this is confusing to some people when they first learn this, is like my skills that I had developed were in another arena, right? I'm really good at a lot of the things that arrangers tend to be good at. And so that's what I had built my career around. But the truth is, they're not my zone of genius, they're my zone of excellence. And so, again, when I realized, oh, I'm a connector, like for me, if I can be connecting with people in some way, that is where I shine the most. And that is where things move the most, is what I discovered in business. So, in other words, like the way this is going to show up for each person is going to be different, right? There's a lot of connectors in the world and we're all very unique. So we always say we're not trying to pigeonhole you or put you into some box. Instead, use your talent as a jumping off point, as an exploratory tool to go, like, how does this apply to me? What elements can I take from this? So for me personally, this may or may not be true for the other connectors out there, but for me personally, I'm quite extroverted. And I just love people, right? So I really shine and I feel like my true self the most when I am talking to people, whether that's coaching. I actually discovered sales was a strength and a superpower. Not naturally, I had to learn the skill, but once I learned it, it was like, oh, this is great. This is fun. I enjoy this. So, kind of sales, video, getting up on video, which I was totally scared about when I first started, and getting on lives and all that. But over time, as I got more comfortable, I was like, oh, this is fun. This is something I really enjoy, right? And so I had to really discover for me, what did it mean to be a connector for me personally? And so that's going to be the same for you. Whatever your talent is in the World Changer quiz, you're going to want to go, what does this mean for me? How does this apply to me, right? And a good way to, even if you haven't taken the quiz, a good question to ask yourself to start to see how can you make these changes is, if I were more in my zone of genius, what would I be doing differently? If I were more in my zone of genius, what would I be doing differently? Just reflect on that question. And if you know your World Changer quiz profile, then you might incorporate that. So you might incorporate a little bit about the arranger, for example, or visionary or connector. Now, if you would like, you can get the extended report bundle for your profile. So we have a bundle that is it has your World Changer quiz extended report. So it's an extended PDF, goes much, much deeper into your talent, your motivator, how to really use those in your life and career. And so it talks about when you're at your best, how do you show up? When you're not at your best, how do you show up? How can you use these again in your career, or if you have your own business, or if you work in an organization? And same thing with the talent. It talks about how can you use, or not talent, your motivator. It talks about how can you use your motivator to inspire you in your career or business, or if you work in an organization, because the motivator is really around like what motivates you and inspires you forward. And then a lot of times around the motivators, we find that there is some degree of like shame around the motivators. And so how can you really move through that? So it comes with this whole extended report. It comes with a couple of audios on, I think one of them is how to get the most out of your, extended report. And the other one is on how to create your winning team. So we do a really deep dive, myself and my mentor, on those topics. So anyway, I just share that because if you are curious about getting that extended report bundle, you can go to worldchangerreports.com and you can get the bundles there. So coming back to the question of if I were in my zone of genius, if I were more in my zone of genius, let's say even 10% more, what would I be doing differently? So those of you watching live, I would love for you to answer that question in the chat. So Julie, if you were 60% in your zone of genius, what would you be doing differently? Nina, if we said your average was like 20, then if you were 30% on average in your zone of genius, what would you be doing differently? Or if you want to make it 40, you can do that as well. So if you were 10 to 20% further along. So, before, let me just answer this how I would have answered it, right? So when I was struggling, I wasn't in my zone of genius. I was only maybe 20% of the time. If I had to increase that to, let's say, 40% of the time, I would have said, I just have to think back. It's been a while, right? So yeah, one thing was just like more interaction with people for me. So getting out in person with people sometime would have been one of those things. So getting out and networking, having more coffees with people, just connecting. Also hosting events is something I've always really enjoyed. And I would do it like sporadically here or there in my previous career, but I rarely really did it. Now it's something I do very regularly. So I could have seen like, okay, if I did a more regular event or a gathering of some kind, that would help me get more into my zone of genius. Maybe pick a topic or a theme. I'm actually doing an event next week, a vision boarding party. So that's really fun. It brings together like-minded women around kind of a personal development-esque theme, but it's very like fun and lighthearted. So hosting more events would have probably been in there, and then maybe going out and like getting more coffees with people and just kind of, yeah, I don't like the word networking, but just like connecting. I mean, connecting is a better word, right? Just connecting with people, seeing how it could be in service to them, sharing what I'm up to, just building those connections, which is something that I've always really loved and kind of prided myself on, in the sense that I do that even when I don't necessarily need something or something, right? It's just for the joy of building my community, building my network, and seeing, what comes of that. And often a lot of magic does. And I'll just share a couple of examples. In addition to, getting more results in my business when I do those kinds of things, I have really had all kinds of opportunities and stuff show up out of being more in my connector, out of, building those connections and friendships and communities. I've been invited to amazing events, given like free tickets to amazing events, where then I met incredible people who became friends, and later, some of them may be clients. Down the road, some of those connections led to, jobs for family members or friends, and just have enriched my life more than I ever could have dreamed possible. And this came out of me being in the regular flow of connecting. If you are an arranger, let's just think about for the other types, or the other profiles, what would be an example? Let's see if you guys have put anything in the chat. Nina says less anxious stress when preparing for things. Yes. What would you be doing differently though, Nina? That's what we're, so that would be the result, but what would you be doing differently? So in other words, like how can you actually start to get more into your zone of genius? Um, so let's just think about that a little bit more. Actually, let me pull up the extended reports and we're going to look at a ranger right now. So I can't share my screen, so I'm just going to have to read off of here. But let's just go to the part of, so rangers, when they're at their best, they're having fun creating efficient systems and optimizing existing ones, can manage a lot of details at once in a way that creates flow and ease for the whole team. They love to complete projects and really be, pull things together, can make things repeatable and scalable. They're kind of like the glue that holds everything together. So at your best, an arranger is relaxed on top of things and makes it look easy. So how to use your arranger gifts in your career, I'll just share a couple of these, is find ways to inspire the people around you and make things fun. Remember, not everyone loves the details as much as you do. So this is kind of like how you interact with other people, because a lot of times arrangers can get very stuck in the details. So if you have your own business, you can use your gift for systems to set up a business that is scalable and can run with minimal input of your time. That takes time, right? But that is definitely an arranger at their best. Ideally, arrangers would maybe partner with visionaries and connectors, because the visionary probably has the idea and, or they take an existing methodology maybe or system. A lot of arrangers love our coaching program, because we teach a proven coaching method that then they can go out and really apply. And so, I mean, all three types or all three profiles enjoy it for different reasons, but that's one of the reasons that arrangers tend to be drawn to it. And so choosing something that's pre-existing there, or choosing a visionary that you want to connect with or align with, and a connector who wants to go out and be the one to bring it out to the world, right? One thing with arrangers is you want to be careful not to get stuck in the details. So you want to not get caught up in the perfectionism. Otherwise, you'll never get your ideas out there. So just think about, for you, Nina, what would be something you could do to align more with your gift as an arranger, or anyone else watching who's an arranger. Just pick one thing, and you might have to come up with it intuitively, right? So maybe it's a way that you see to approach your work differently. Maybe you're out there trying to come up with an idea on your own, and you've been trying and you've been trying and you've, done different things. Not to say arrangers never have ideas, but maybe you have struggled in that arena, in which case, maybe it is to go out and learn a proven method or system, or align with someone. So that could be just one example. And then arrangers too, if you have a business model right now that you are it's not exactly systematized or streamlined or scalable, you might look to see, because your gift may be to take more of a systematized or streamlined approach to really growing your business. So a lot of times arrangers love the online marketing. Not always, some are not techie at all, but sometimes they really like the online marketing of understanding the nitty gritty of the way things work on the back end. And yeah, so that could be an approach to marketing that really works for an arranger. All right, so that's a couple of examples for arrangers. Let's talk about connector, which we've talked a fair bit about already, since that's mine. But connectors are really at their best. Let's find it here. The life of the party, or an amazing host. Naturally gifted at sharing ideas, products, and services with people. So for me, if I love something, I tell everyone about it. It's just natural. It's what I love to do. I want everyone to know about it. And so that kind of can translate into business as well. Connectors are really great with collaborations and seeing how to make things a win-win for everybody involved. They naturally make connections between people, for example, helping someone find the right assistant or boyfriend or business partner. And they're typically great at bringing people together. So a connector, if you have your own business, a connector can find a visionary product, service, or idea they believe in and use their natural marketing or sales ability to share it with people who need it. Again, it doesn't mean that connectors don't have ideas, but for example, me, right? I I really didn't have a clear, like, even though I knew I wanted to coach, I didn't have a clear, like, oh, this is what I want to do, or this is who I want to serve. And I kind of floundered in trying to figure that out. And it wasn't until I aligned with my mentor, who is a visionary, and had her methodology and everything that things really started to take off, right? And now through that, I've begun to really develop out my own ideas and see more, you know, more direction and so on my own. But that really came out of that partnership initially. Um, so if you work in an organization, you will probably do best in a role that's people facing. So maybe you're kind of behind the scenes right now, and maybe that's the shift that you want to make, is to be more people facing in what you do. So it's really about getting out from behind the scenes for a connector a lot of the time and seeing how do you want to be connecting with people. And then finally, the visionary. So visionaries at their best see ideas, angles, and patterns and unique solutions that other people don't. They tend to be great at starting projects, and then ideally they have a team around them to help them actually finish them. Visionaries are really great at recognizing trends and opportunities. They're often the spark for change, and they can really kind of think ahead and create something and innovate something in a way that may be more challenging for the other talents. Visionaries, how you can use this is have trusted people or a system in place to help you vet your ideas and choose the right one to focus on. This is so important for visionaries. The biggest kind of Achilles heel of the visionary is like too many ideas and always changing their minds and not staying focused on one or a couple of things. So this is really important for all the types, but especially for visionaries, to have trusted people to kind of be their sounding board. So this could be a coach, a board of advisors, or a friend or family member who will be both encouraging but also deeply honest with you. That's why typically people go to a coach. So as a rule of thumb, it's great to run all ideas and projects through this kind of system before you decide you're going to do them. And once you know you're going to move forward, for visionaries, really important to vet, or not vet, that was the first part. It's really important to collaborate. I mean, ideally, all of the profiles have collaboration in some sense, because think about it. You're not great at some things and you're brilliant at others. One of my favorite quotes is by Albert Einstein. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll go its whole life thinking it's stupid. And isn't that true, right? And I just think, wow, there's so many of us that feel that way. We feel like, oh, I don't, you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not good in this area and I feel like I should be. And we're going like, why am I not good in this area? And everybody else seems to be like naturally gifted at this. And we're looking all around us instead of going like, wait, that's just not my zone of genius. Of course, there's some things we need to learn that aren't in our zone of genius, and there's stages in business, but it's great the more you can have collaboration with other people as well, who that is their zone of genius, right? So visionaries, if you're working in organizations, you can be looking for opportunities that your organization isn't currently engaged in and maybe bringing that in as an idea for the company. Being a part of brainstorming and strategic meetings where your visionary gifts are really valued. So those are a couple of things. So again, I want you to take out of the call today, the 3 powerful questions that we've asked today are these. What percentage of the time do you feel like you are in your zone of genius right now? Make sure you answered that question. Imagine you increase that by, let's say, 20% even. How would your life be different? Right? That was kind of what Nina described earlier. She said, I'd be less anxious and stressed when preparing for things, more internally resilient in rough times, for example. So how will your life be different? But get even more specific, right? It's like when you are less anxious and stressed, what will change, right? Will that affect your relationship? Will that affect your health? Will that affect your results in your business? So really dig deep and go, what will be different? Because we need to see why we're going to work on this. Otherwise, it's not really exciting or compelling, right? So we want to really see the vision for how your life will change if you're even 20% more in your zone of genius. And then finally, if you were more in your zone of genius, what would you be doing differently? So in other words, not how will you get there, but what would you be doing differently is a great way to think about it. So if you were 20% more in your zone of genius than you are right now, what would you be doing differently on a day-to-day basis in your work, in your life? How would you approach things? So those are the three most important questions we've covered today. So hopefully out of even those questions, whether or not you've taken the World Changer quiz, you can really start to get some ideas. And then what I would love for you to do is if you haven't taken the World Changer quiz, do that. It's going to be really great for you to see what your profile is, and then you can kind of listen to what I talked about today in terms of some tips and some ways to get even more into alignment there. Better yet, get the extended report. Again, that's worldchangerreports.com. And that way you can really go through and also listen to the audios and go through, and you can hang those reports on your wall, or make it a little exercise to really see how can you get more into alignment there. And I really recommend taking one or two things that you see today and implementing them. So really not getting overwhelmed trying to make too many different changes at once. If you make one change this week and then another change this next week, that will make a huge difference. So those of you watching live, I'd love for you to put, or in the replay, I'd love for you to put in the chat, what one thing are you going to take out and apply that you've seen today? And then once again, we're going to be live again next week on the topic, get better results and have fun doing it. That's World Changer Quiz Part 2. And then the following week on how to create your winning team. So super excited to share more in this little mini series we're doing. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat or message me directly here on Facebook. If you're on YouTube or another platform, then you can go over to our Facebook group, masteryofcoaching.com, and message me from there. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.